And so if we go west of Oklahoma and Texas, nothing has been relevant out there for 6 or 7 years. Since Chip Kelly's teams, Mark Helfrich took it over, they go to a national championship. Since then, nothing. Lincoln Riley's the Great White Hope. They're playing on ESPN, their spring game. So ESPN has designated that to be the college football narrative that they want to run with this spring, is that we're going to showcase Lincoln Riley and USC. Okay. For me, two criterias of a great college football coach, not necessarily criteria, but whether I can evaluate that guy to be a great coach in any circumstances, whether he's done it at multiple places or he has at least built what he has at his current location, meaning Dabo Sweeney built Clemson, Urban Meyer's gone to a number of places, so is Nick Saban. Lincoln Riley, how much stock do you put in what he accomplished at Oklahoma versus what Bob Stoops left him?
I think that's a great question. I don't think it's relevant for USC, and here's why. The tradition and legacy of USC is they are heads and shoulders the superior program in that conference historically. Number two, he is going to the place, perhaps no more place in all of America, where perception matters more than reality than where he is going. Meaning that he comes with real star power. And that matters more in LA and the program he will be attached to, right? I mean, how many of us thought when they brought Pete Carroll in 2001 after he kind of flamed out in the NFL, he was like the fourth or fifth choice to hire him for the job, but he totally bought in to the perception and the Hollywood of the USC program. We got Snoop Dogg and Will Ferrell on the sidelines. Recruits are calling us up now. And I think Lincoln absolutely plays into all of that. He's coming into that league at the perfect time. There is no power standing in his way. The program that's recruited the best in that league is Oregon. It just lost its coach. And it's got a coach that's never coached before coming in. So you have, Washington is down. Probably historically, them and UCLA, the next two traditional powers in that league. UCLA had the best roster it's had in about 10 years, and it produced, what was it, a Holiday Bowl bid, I think, if I remember right, or something like that. So it's the perfect time. He's got all that star power, all that perception. I think your question becomes relevant in about 4 years. All right, when the initial buzz of this wears off, and he's no longer selling Oz anymore. Okay. But now we do pay attention to the man behind the curtain, and we see, has he gotten to the playoffs? Has he won a game there? All right. I think that matters in about 4 years when if he doesn't do those things, the Alabamas and Georgias and those programs and go out to California and try to recruit against him as all hat and no cattle, basically. But right now, all that perception, it's like when we brought Jim Harbaugh in. Okay, now Harbaugh had a hell of a lot more of a resume of doing things on his own than Lincoln Riley does, because I get the whole, in another context, as Jim Harbaugh would say, Lincoln Riley was kind of born on third and credited with a triple, right? Okay, but right now it doesn't matter because he comes with all that buzz himself, and then the buzz of USC, and still, even with California losing population, still one of the most densely populated recruiting hotbeds in the country. He has to truly suck to fail. Okay. He can be overrated and because of the things you're pointing out, and still be great, because the buzz factors, which matter a lot to 16, 17, and the 18-year-old kids he's going to be recruiting, those things are all in his favor. Now, I will be interested to see how fast he can turn this roster around. I look at our roster right now at Michigan, and with the one exception of linebacker, and the Big Ten has struggled. That's kind of been Ohio State's bugaboo the last few years. That's the one position they've not quite been able to unlock in recruiting, is that one, right? So with the exception of linebacker, this is the first time that I can absolutely make the case Michigan is 3 deep at every position, everywhere else, with the exception of linebacker. And I've not said that about Michigan since probably the early 2000s, because we've been stacking classes now and retaining those players. Now, if you look at that's different than the roster USC is going to have. This is going to be a very transfer-heavy roster, and he's not taking all those transfers, folks, because the roster he inherited was good. He's taking them because it was not. Now, what my talent numbers show is their top line players are going to be, because of those transfers, better than anybody else in the Pac-12 has. But their depth, they're not going to be 3 deep at every single position. So injuries, what happens if we get in to having to play more of those reserves? What happens if they get to 11-1 because they roll a weak league and get into the playoff? And now they're playing one of these teams that have been stacking those recruiting classes. How ugly could that get? But as long as that happens in year 1 or 2, he can turn that to his advantage and say, see, look what I did with this roster in this transition era. You're the player that then helps us get to that next step. So I really think he's got about a 4-year window here before he has to even come close to worrying about face planting. And even if he's half the coach of his reputation, I don't see how he face plants.